Motivational Steroid Sports. The 1992 Cricket World Cup, also known as the Benson and Ampere Hedges World Cup 1992, for sponsorship reasons, was the fifth Cricket World Cup, the premier one-day international cricket tournament for men's national teams, organised by the ICC. It was held in Australia and New Zealand from the 22nd of February to the 25th of March 1992 and finished with Pakistan beating England by 22 runs in the final to become the World Cup champions for the first time. The 1992 World Cup is remembered for the controversial rain rule. South Africa tried to take advantage of this rule by slowing down their semi-final against England, but the tactic ultimately cost them the match. Let's go into the detailed story of World Cup. Australia and New Zealand were awarded the hosting rights in January 1989, defeating a joint bid from India and Pakistan, which had hosted the preceding 1987 World Cup. The Australia and Ampere New Zealand bid proposed that the tournament be held in February and March 1992, at the end of the local cricket season, while the India and Ampere Pakistan bid would have seen the tournament held in late 1991. The 7 full members of the ICC were given 2 votes each in the ballot, while the 18 associate members were given 1 vote each. The results of the ballot were not released, but the winning bid reportedly enjoyed strong support from the ICC associate members. The 1992 World Cup was the first to feature coloured player clothing, white cricket balls and black sight screens, with a number of matches being played under floodlights. It was also the first Cricket World Cup to be held in the Southern Hemisphere and the first to include South Africa, who had been allowed to rejoin the International Cricket Council as a test-playing nation after the end of apartheid. For the first time, the World Cup was not held after a 4-year gap, but 5. The format was changed from previous tournaments with a complete round-robin, replacing the former 2 qualifying groups. The initial draw was released with 8 competing countries and 28 round-robin matches, plus 2 semi-finals and a final. In late 1991, South Africa were readmitted to the International Cricket Council after 21 years of exclusion due to apartheid, and the draw was amended to include them, adding another 8 matches to the round-robin. The rule for calculating the target score for the team batting second in rain-affected matches was also changed. The previous rule, the average run rate method, simply multiplied the run rate of the team batting first by the number of overs available to the team batting second. But this rule had been deemed to give an unfair advantage to the team batting second. In an attempt to rectify this, the target score would now be calculated by the most productive overs method. In this system, if the team batting second had 44 overs available, their target score would be 1 greater than the 44 highest scoring overs of the team batting first.
World Cup match that not only was robbed by a rule, but by TV broadcasting as well. In order to calculate the target for the team batting second, the least productive overs of the team batting first were reduced from the equation. So, for example, a team bats first, scores 250 runs in 50 overs. After that, there's rain and 3 overs are lost to rain. So, the second innings would be of 47 overs instead, and the runs scored by the team batting first in its 3 least productive overs would be reduced. Say, the 3 least productive overs of the side batting first were a maiden over and 1 run each in 2 other overs. These 2 runs would be deducted from the total of the revised target. This rule was in place since the team batting second still had time to alter their approach according to the revised target. But there was something amiss. What about those situations where rain interruptions happened during the innings, not at the beginning? 22 required of 13 balls, and then there's rain for 10 to 12 minutes. Remember? And there was something else which was very weird, which is pretty much the other reason which brought this thrilling semi-final to an unfortunate end. Australia's TV broadcast. 3.5 hours, the stipulated time for each innings. That meant each innings had to be completed within that time, and there was no flexibility whatsoever for rain or any other reason. In case the bowling side bowled their overs slowly in the first innings, then the batting side will get lesser number of overs to bat in those 3.5 hours. And then the chase would be of that many overs only. And if there was rain in the second innings, the team batting would lose overs. For heaven's sake, it's an ICC event, that too a World Cup. And what was feared is what exactly happened. When South Africa won the toss in the semi-final, they chose to field first. And this was surprising considering this rain rule might come back to haunt them.
About the rain?
Yeah, it is a calculated risk, but if it rains while we're bowling, it's not too bad. It's a problem comes if you're batting tonight and it rains, but that's a risk we're prepared to take, and we're going to stick to our basic tactics.
South Africa also did something which you and I won't say was in the spirit of the game. The match started 10 minutes late due to rain, and South Africa knew that the England innings had to be completed by 6:10 p.m. and if the full quota of 50 overs wasn't completed by then, the innings would still be over. South Africa eventually bowled only 45 overs in the allotted 3.5 hours. That robbed England of 5 overs at the death where they could have accelerated their scoring rate. England managed 252 in those 45 overs, and they didn't even know beforehand that they would eventually play fewer overs. If they had known from before, they would have planned their innings accordingly. So those who say South Africa were the unlucky ones that day, here's some food for thought for you. But with that rain rule, South Africa had to chase no more than 253 of 45 overs. That too with the full 15 overs of field restrictions. At this point, it's fair to say it was only one team which was dealt a bad hand, and it was England, not South Africa. The South African innings ebbed and flowed. At the loss of Adrian Caper, Jonty Rhodes came into bat with around 120 runs required at more than a run a ball. He smashed 43 of 38 balls to get South Africa back in the game, and South Africa had a lot of hope with the way Brian McMillan and David Richardson were going. South Africa needed 22 runs of the last 13 balls, pretty manageable considering McMillan and Richardson had gotten the momentum with 25 runs of the last 17 balls. 10 to 12 minutes later, the play resumes. So it's 22 runs of 7 balls now. What? Nobody's able to digest this. Okay, wait. There's some miscommunication happening on the ground. It's actually 22 runs of 1 ball.
Has just come back to me and said that the umpires have come back to him and they've changed it to say that there is only 1 ball remaining.
You heard that right. 22 runs of a single ball is what South Africa need to enter the final. I know it sounds like a fantasy or a daydream, but for South Africa, it was pretty much a nightmare. So this is what happened. Some minutes got lost. Now there was time for only 1 ball to be played. You remember, right? The TV broadcast had a time limit beyond which the game couldn't go. And believe it or not, all this is happening in the middle of a World Cup semi-final, which was going for a thrilling finish. They can't extend the game by another 10 minutes? ESPN Cricinfo states that the competition rules allowed for a reserve day for the match. But the host broadcaster Channel 9 insisted that the match be finished on the scheduled day itself. Dumbfounded by the absurdity of it all, Brian McMillan could do just this on the last ball of this ill-fated game.
It's pushed away to mid-wicket. You can see that all the players are disappointed with that end. The crowd.
This match stays on in public memory for what it was, a farce. A weird rain rule, and on top of that, the rigidity of TV broadcasting not just ruined what could have been one of the most thrilling finishes to a game, a World Cup knockout game nonetheless, it also killed a South African dream. But the heartbreak was not just South Africa's, it was for every cricket lover.
The way the system was set up made sense, but the problem was when rain interrupted the game. This was a big issue, as we saw in a semi-final match between England and South Africa. At one point, England had to score 22 runs in 13 balls, which was challenging but doable. However, due to rain delays, they were left with only 22 runs to get in 7 balls, and they even lost an over because it was unproductive. And then a ridiculous situation where they needed 21 runs off just 1 ball. This wasn't fair. It turned out that when the rain interruption happened during the second part of the game, the team batting second, in this case England, had a tough time winning. It only happened once when England managed to win against South Africa during the group stage, despite these unfair conditions. This strange ending to the semi-final led to the creation of the Duckworth-Lewis method to make things fairer. A notable feature of this World Cup was the innovative tactics employed by New Zealand captain Martin Crowe, who opened his team's bowling with spin bowler Dipak Patel rather than with a fast bowler, as is usual practice. Another innovation was the then unorthodox ploy of opening the batting with pinch hitters, such as New Zealand's Mark Greatbatch. These innovations reversed the immediate prior form of New Zealand, who had lost 3-0 in their most recent series against England, with one commentator writing, "Without a host of world-class performers, New Zealand got crafty instead."
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more videos and don't forget to like, share and comment.